Hello, Joel.
Hey Butch, how are you? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's so good to have a stand up with you. It feels like
Yeah,
it's been so long.
I know. I had adjusted my desk to stand, and so I was like, "Oh, we're in a proper stand up. We have to stand."
Oh man, I feel like I need to be a little taller here. I can. You're gonna have to like adjust your
Oh,
desk down and just squat. There it goes. That's perfect.
yeah, yeah. This is a little
Man, I
can't replace it with magic.
like the guitar back there
Oh
too.
yes, thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Got the Fender Strat, and then a little while ago, yeah, let's see if we see it.
Oh,
I got a little bass as well a couple years ago.
nice.
So yeah.
That's that's awesome. I've always loved the guitars in the background.
Hmm.
So, well, Joel, welcome to the stand up man. It's been a little while, but
Yeah.
excited to catch up and hear kind of what you're working on. So, we'll kick it off. I'll give my update real quick,
Okay.
and then I'll pass over to you. So,
Sure.
yesterday did a AI and testing workshop. It was a lot of fun, a lot of familiar faces, folks that I connect with on LinkedIn, and some new faces. And talked a lot about playwright and MCP. Debbie came on and shared some of the stuff she's looking at and working on. Playwright CLI, we talked about that. I don't know if you heard about that one yet,
Hmm.
but did that. It was a lot of fun. And then I went down to the Birmingham AI engineering breakout session, which was pretty fun, and learned about how they're using RAG and building a Claire, I think is the name, like a Birmingham AI chatbot that can tell you all about any of the sessions they've had in the past. But ton of fun. Today I'm getting back to the grind. I've got some project work and gonna probably write some automation, which is fun,
Nice.
and leverage some AI to do that, some of it. And yeah, what you got going on?
Yeah, wow. Let's see. We're getting ready to do some load testing on some new infrastructure that we've got. So we have some teams that are kind of shifting over to using Kubernetes, and so we want to make sure that infrastructure is good when going out. So we're starting off just kind of load testing. I guess like our kind of stage QA environment, and so it can scale out. And so I've been trying to kind of the application that we're going to be running on it has a few sets of load tests or performance tests available, and so I'm just kind of getting a little more breadth around the system, and so got most of those scenarios kind of handled yesterday. Got one more I want to try to finish off here in the morning, and then today we're going to be running the load test, and so
Pushing
just
the buttons.
pushing the buttons, watching graphs run, and then trying to figure out, try to fine tune, like memory and CPU limits that we need to have for the pods.
Yeah. So, years ago, 6+ years ago, we all had that Neoload server that we'd have to remote into that had, we had
Yep.
one license and we kind of shared the license. I mean, I'm assuming you're not testing using Neoload today. What tool are you using?
No, not using Neoload anymore. Let's see. So we've been leveraging K6 for the past couple years, and so that's been really good. I led like a little internal K6 workshop, or a little bit of a boot camp, really. And so there was a lot of information crammed into the period of about a month. And so yeah, so we do K6, and so done a lot of work with building. Hopefully, I think is a nice reusable framework with that. And
Nice.
so got to adjust it to kind of work with TypeScript and packages and getting that bundled out, and so you can kind of get all the kind of fun goodies that you have normally with kind of TypeScript stuff, but then it performs like a K6 test.
Nice. Very nice. And yeah, I mean, how you've been using K6 for a little while. Is it all API test, or y'all doing any like browser test as well?
So the way I kind of separate them out is so you kind of have like what I call protocol tests, where it's kind of the network traffic that you would do from the browser. And so for this round, we're not doing any specific sort of front end tests. Um, they like to call it hybrid performance testing, which I think is a really great way of doing
Yeah.
it. So you generate some load through the API or through a protocol layer and all that, and then you'd have one thread that, or well, before this kind of pattern, someone else would manually go in and refresh the page. I'm like, yeah, this works pretty good, or like, ooh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is really slow. And so you're kind of working off of like gut feels, which isn't wrong. But what this lets you do, if you do the hybrid approach, where most of your load and your traffic goes through APIs or network requests, and then you have one thread that does kind of spin up a headless browser, and it measures the UI kind of things like first time to paint, and seeing how quickly things draw on the screen. It uses a lot of some of Google's kind of standard metrics for UI rendering, and so that way you actually have numbers tied to your gut feel, and then and be
Nice.
able to tie that with it. Um, so,
So are
but
you doing all that within K6, or do you have like a separate, like just a direct playwright test that kind of does some of those measurements that you've benchmarked?
yeah, that is all in K6. Yeah, all that was in K6.
Man, I need to get back out there. I mean, where I was previously, it was all APIs. Like we
Hmm.
really didn't care too much about how the UI rendered because the UI rendered from all the API calls. So there was no like
Hmm.
bundled applications, and so we did focus on a few like UI heavy calls, like getting all the payments, and
Hmm.
seeing how fast that rendered. But actually, yeah, I kind of wish I would have dove a little deeper. Maybe upgraded my K6 version. I felt it was always like it felt like a chore until like I automated a lot of it to
Hmm.
actually go update the K6, and we were running our K6 stuff in an ECS, basic ECS task or whatever. It's like a
Hmm.
little container. So I mean, it'd be very similar to like a pod.
Hmm.
So getting all that stuff, like I had a manual process, but finally, when I was like, all right, when this pull request gets merged, you're going to go build the Docker, you're going to push it, you're going to go update this other thing. And it was a good feeling, but it took a little while for me to get there. So I
Hmm.
didn't do too many updates until, later in my K6 journey. And then, yeah, it was good, man.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I do have just a personal question for you.
Okay.
I know last we chatted, we were talking about Ralph looping, and
Yeah.
when Sergey's on here, he didn't know what that stuff is. Let's just be honest. He's really awesome at what he does, but I don't think he wants to know what a Ralph loop is. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll
Hmm.
find out. But you mentioned you've been living in work trees, Git work trees,
Yeah.
and I had no idea what a Git work tree was. I mean, I'd read about them. I'd read about people using them, but I'd
Hmm.
never used one or really knew about them. So what? Like, I'd love to hear from you about Git work trees. What are they? Why are they awesome if they
Hmm.
are?
Yeah. This is at least my take about it, and so I'm sure that I'm maybe missing some nuances to it. For me, the problem it solved is it's a little bit more sophisticated solution, to have multiple projects within the same repository open and easily accessible. So what I would used to do this before is like, okay, I would clone project 123, get that clone down. I've got some changes, and then I don't love git stash. I don't know. It's a little too open ended for me. And so if I've got some changes, I'm really not ready to commit yet. So what I do is I cd up a directory and I git clone, and then change that to project 123 dash one or dash two. And so then you can kind of have multiple copies of this. This is a lot more elegant solution of this.
Yeah.
And so it lets you be able to you keep that kind of git history for your individual folders. Um, a good pattern that I've seen has been doing like a bear clone, where it pretty much only pulls like the kind of git things for that project. It doesn't get all the files and stuff, and then from there you can create a main work tree, or a development work tree, or feature 123 work tree. And then there's even some plugins. I'm sure VS Code probably has some extensions for it. There's some extensions or plugins for NeoVim that you can use to swap between work trees, where it can kind of automatically swap you across your directories. But in the end, it's still just a directory of the repository, but its whole name, instead of it being called Project 123 when you clone it down, it's you can give it its own name of main development, or feature your ticket number, or however you want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have multiple. What's really useful, especially in the context of how that ties into like AI agent or agentic workflows, and for Ralph loops, is so you don't want to have, if you're doing kind of longer kind of processed things where that you're agentically developing in a particular area, that could be a while. You don't necessarily want to just, all right, hey, I want these things, go, and you don't just sit there and wait. And so what you want it to do is be able to go and work on a work tree. And so that way you can then pivot to another task that may also be, using an agentic workflow or a Ralph loop or something where it's going to be running for a long time. And this way, since they're in separate directories, separate work trees, their own sort of Git sessions, they can work autonomously without stepping on each other, actively changing files.
Gotcha.
One flow adds a file and the other one changes it, or updates something that it was not expecting to have to deal with. And so that's why you can have multiple instances of projects running and not step on each other.
All right. So, a couple questions, and I know I could go read the docs, but I have Joel here. Gotta take advantage. So, does it actually create multiple copies of the same repository in each of those folders, or is it?
I think it does create it does create an actual copy.
Okay, so
I could be wrong on that, but I think it does. All the times I've seen it does kind of do a, it is a directory with files in it, and so I think it is. That's why I said it's still a more elegant solution for it.
Sure.
But I think it is still all like raw files and things like that.
But my understanding would be your Git folder, which has all your Git history. There's just one of those potentially if you use like that bear method.
If you do, that's just how I like to organize it. So that way I can have a kind of raw clone and have it called, hey, project 123. And then
Gotcha.
I can have, and then in there I can have, main development feature.
Gotcha. You're different. That lets you do multiple folders. Okay.
Yes, without having to then like, hey, let me look at this project's directory. Okay, here's feature 123, feature 124, feature 125, main dev, or
Gotcha.
and then have to like
Okay.
hyphen it off. It's just how I like to organize those folders.
Gotcha, man. Well, I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna learn about it. How's your experience been with like merging maybe two different branches? I mean, have you run into like merge conflicts or anything? I mean, I'm assuming there's some of those you got to deal with.
It's not too different than other things really.
Gotcha.
And so
you just try to have them work in different areas, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times when starting off a new work, when you create a new work tree, like there's a separate command for it, like get work tree add. You do need to tell it, at least in my flow, like where to branch off of. And so, maybe if you're doing trunk based, then you just always get from main and you don't care. But if you are trying to branch off of something like staging or development or something, then you would want to make sure that you flag it that way. So then you do have to kind of maintain it in that kind of regard. But it hasn't been too bad.
Nice. And are you using those for like everything or just like your agentic stuff?
Honestly, I've kind of tried to get in the practice of just doing it for everything. And so I don't know. It also kind of helps me do kind of keep track of what all irons I have in the fire. I'm like, okay, let's
what
do an
features
LS
you
of my
currently have.
directory.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, no, that one got closed out. And so it's just kind of, for me, it's just kind of let me know how many things are going on at one time. I'm like, I need to clean this up or whatnot.
Yeah, don't do a Git branch on my local. You'll see way too many branches that I should have deleted. And I guess that's an easy way to force you to clean things up, almost like a to-do list. So
yeah.
Very cool, man. Well, I know we're about at time.
Sure.
Anything you just want to leave for Sergey, who will probably, chime in tomorrow about this?
Good. Let's see. Well, so I talked a bit more about work trees and general flows and stuff, but Ralph loops though, look up Ralph loops, and not just Ralph loops, but reverse Ralph loops.
Ooh,
and so those have been pretty fun for some projects that I'm working on.
spicy. I'm gonna have
Hmm.
to go do some research, man. Well,
Hmm.
thank you for joining me for doing the stand up. You can go sit
Yeah.
back down if you'd like, or just stand up all day like I do. And we'll catch you later, man.
All
So
right.
this is something me and Sergey do. I'm gonna do it with you. I don't know if you
Yeah.
have the magic stuff turned on, but
I don't think so. That's
we have
not.
magical hearts.
All
All right, man. Well, I'll see you later.
right. Yeah. Good to see you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.